Hey friend, a quick update for you. My website is officially live. I'm so excited. You can check it out at reneemat.com. And my name is spelled a little bit different, so people get hung up on it sometimes, but it's Renae. And I'll make sure the link is in the show notes in case you need to just click that and get to the website. But this website is where you're going to find all the things that I talk about here on the podcast. Plus, I've officially opened the wait list for my upcoming course. So if you've been wanting some extra support to finally get those 5 foundational routines working for real life, you'll definitely want to get on that list so that you are the first to know when doors open. The new website is going to be your go to spot to learn more about me, check out those resources I mentioned on the podcast, and get that support if you're ready to create routines and systems that actually work for real life. So when you're done listening, head to reneemat.com, take a look around, pop your name on that wait list. I cannot wait for you to see it. I have a very exciting episode today. I actually have a guest with me here to talk about how to make small changes to improve our health and energy. She shares so many nuggets of information that I am sure you are going to love it. So, a little bit about Elizabeth Sherman, our guest. She is a seasoned life and health coach that specializes in women's midlife health, and she is the host of the Total Health in Midlife podcast. She has certifications in hormonal health and wellness and helps women navigate midlife challenges, empowering them to build lifelong habits for physical, emotional, and mental well being. It is her mission to empower midlife women to take charge of their health so they can stay independent as they get older, feel confident in their choices, and fully enjoy life. Through coaching, education, and real life tools, she helps women cut through the noise, listen to their bodies, and create sustainable habits that support energy, clarity, and overall well being without the overwhelm, shame, or the all or nothing mindset. So you don't have to go all in or overhaul your whole life to be healthy. She's going to teach us how. So let's dive in, and I am excited for you to meet Elizabeth Sherman. Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renae Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage podcast. Thank you for being here. This is very exciting. And I would love for you to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and what you're here for.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I am so excited to talk about these topics with your audience, and I'm just really super excited. So, I am Elizabeth Sherman. I am a life and health coach for women in midlife. And so, what that means is that I help my clients in the areas of eating, physical activity, stress management, sleep management, body image, and then also how to manage your symptoms of menopause, perimenopause naturally without chemicals or anything like that, because a lot of our lifestyle behaviors, like what we eat and how we move, will impact whether we have insomnia or get night sweats or those types of problems that women have when they move into, or I should say, out of our reproductive years. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell. I've been working in this area for about 20 years now. I started in 2005, but what the start of it was in 2001. My mom passed away from breast cancer, and I saw right there in the hospital room that if I didn't do something, that I was witnessing my own future. And so that was really the spur, the impetus for me to start getting myself healthy. And so in that process, I started a personal training and got my nutrition certificate together. And one of the things that I think that we as Americans or North Americans or Westerners think of is we think about our health as being this silo, meaning that all I have to do is eat these foods and move this way. And when I do those things, then I'll be healthy. What I found out is that our stress, our environment, all of these other parts of our lives actually influence our ability to cook the meal or to take care of ourselves. And so I think that that kind of starts our conversation about how health intersects with our environment and our routines and things like that. Like when I first started in health, I was like, oh, habits are where it's at. All you have to do is create a habit. And you hear all of those books that talk about how it only takes 21 days to build a habit. And yet, you and I both know that you can do something for 21 days and still get out of the habit. So there has to be something more to it.
I love that aspect to it because it's not as easy as just building the habit and then sticking with it. It's like, what is going to happen when you run into other issues or you get stressed or you have all of these other environmental changes. So I love that you talk about that. And actually when you're going through the environmental piece, one of the things you do talk about is decision fatigue from listening to some of your episodes as well. Can you share a little bit about how that affects our daily lives and our health when it comes to our meal planning or our morning routine or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that we think that all I need is more willpower. That if I have more willpower, then I won't eat the cookies, I won't eat the chocolate, I won't eat the chips. But what happens is we have everything buttoned up all day long. And we are faced with so many different decisions. So, what are you going to have for lunch? What are you going to wear? What are you going to say to this client? Are you going to address your manager if your manager says something to you? Like all of that takes great restraint throughout the day. And so when we get home at night, even if we've bought all of the groceries for, a lovely dinner, when we get home, it's like the last thing that we want to do, right? We walk in and we're like, well, shoot, now I need to like wash the chicken and cut the broccoli and do all these things. And then dinner's not going to be ready for another hour. And then I have to clean up. And so screw it. We're just going to call DoorDash, right?
Oh,
And
exactly.
so, that's decision fatigue, making all of those decisions. And so I love the idea of what I call setting yourself up for success, which in this situation would be doing all of the things that you need to do so that when you walk in the door, you don't even have to make a decision. Like it's easier to actually cook the thing that you decided to cook rather than dial DoorDash. All you have to do is put it in the oven or it's already in the crock pot and it's ready to be eaten. And so like really setting yourself up for success in that way so that you can do the healthy thing versus the easy thing.
Yep. Exactly. And it's so funny because it's like we're even using a lot of the same language that I use in my podcast. So it's like we're totally aligned in this. That's good.
Yeah.
So like the next thing I was going to ask about was the obstacles. You talk about removing invisible obstacles. And so I'm guessing this kind of aligns with what you were just talking about. But what are some of the most common invisible obstacles that you talk about that are affecting or getting in the way of women's health routines?
Yeah. So this is just the craziest thing. I am probably one of the most consistent exercisers that I know. How I've done that is every morning when I get up out of bed, I immediately put on my exercise clothes. Something I've been thinking a lot about lately is what I call the thing before the thing. And this is something that I work with my clients on a lot is like when we make a mistake, so we order DoorDash instead of make the dinner, I like to ask the question, what could the previous version of myself have done to set myself up for success so that, going back to the previous question, so that the thing that I wanted to do was easier than the other. I just got back from a vacation, and over the years, I have gotten better at setting myself up for success after vacation so that I can kind of step back into my life. Because, when we go on vacation, we get out of the routine. And then when we come back home, we're like, wait a minute, what was I doing? I've forgotten everything. When did I work out? Like it's crazy to me that just a week away, I can forget everything. So
we fall out of that routine.
Exactly. Here's what I did, and I think it's brilliant. Before I left for vacation, I was folding my laundry, and previously, I used to fold all of my workout shorts and put my sports bras together in their own containers, and then my workout tops too. Well, before I went on vacation, I actually put everything together so that now when I go to bed at night, I just pull out one set of shorts, a matching shirt, and sports bra. And I am so grateful to the previous version of myself who decided to do that, because it makes life so much easier. And so it's about doing things in advance for you that will help you to create that structure. Does that answer your question?
It does. And it's so, I guess I do have one that kind of spurs off of this is when you're looking at that. So if somebody is thinking about their health and it's super overwhelming and you're just like, I just don't know where to start because there are so many things I'm not doing right. Like, how can they start to recognize what will be helpful and what will be more of a distraction of just trying to focus on what I could be doing to set myself up rather than actually doing the thing that's going to make the progress?
Yeah. That's a really good question, because I think that as women, we have so many rules about we have to be perfect, and we hear all of these things from other people that, it's good information, but like trying to do all of it can be overwhelming. I was recently in Costco. I was looking for sparkling water. I ran into a woman that I know, and she runs a business. And so I figured that she might know where they moved the sparkling water to. And I had a bottle of Topo Chico. It's my favorite. And I was asking her, do you know where they moved the sparkling water? And she was like, oh, that brand? That brand is the worst. It's highly mineralized and it's so bad for you. I would never buy that brand. This is a true story. Like, I got shamed for drinking the wrong brand of sparkling water. And we get unsolicited information like that all the time. And so this is me. And I'm like, I'm freaking drinking water. And you're telling me that I'm doing that wrong? So, like, women get this stuff all the time. So, to answer your question, I just had to tell that quick story. To answer your question, so first, there's going to be a guide and checklist in the show notes, I think, Renae, right?
Yep. We'll put the link in there for it because that's your freebie that you're going to be talking about, right?
Yeah. So I have the foundation that I work with my clients on is what's called the 8 basic habits that healthy people do. And these are the 8 foundational habits that I find that if you do these 8 things, you will never have to go on a diet again. And you will probably be healthier than most people that you know. These habits are really super simple. They're not easy, but they're simple. And so here's my advice is download the guide. And then my suggestion is that for 1 week, you track how much water am I drinking? How many vegetables am I eating? How much am I moving? How much am I sleeping? How much am I eating treats? So on and so forth, all of the 8 different habits. And then figure out what's the easiest one. I love the idea of low-hanging fruit. And so which of those habits is the easiest for you to lean into? One of the things that I love is every day before I drink my coffee, I have 1 glass of water. And then between cups of coffee, I also drink a glass of water. It's a really easy way of getting more water into my diet, and it's not super inconvenient. And so the more that we can lean into it, and I've got all sorts of techniques in the guide, but the more that we can lean into it, the more we can then gain momentum.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So just focus on those first 8. And then once you get those established, that's when you can start kind of looking in other areas of your life. Like you said, putting the workout clothes together and doing those other things that are going to just simplify things if you're struggling outside of the 8 basic habits that you share.
Right. Well, one of the habits is move daily. And so let's say that you create a goal. Okay, I'm going to exercise every day before work or after work or at lunchtime. So you plan for it and then you see what happens. And, none of us really like making mistakes, but mistakes are where the learning happens. And so if I decide that I'm going to, wake up and exercise first thing in the morning and I don't do it, then we get to ask the question, well, why? And not in a judgy way, but just in a curiosity seeking way. Why didn't you stick to that commitment? Was it because you went to bed too late? Was it because you were up in the middle of the night? What are all of the reasons? And then how do you protect for that moving forward? And you're not going to be able to, get rid of all of the reasons why you miss your workout, but the more you start to investigate it with a non-judgmental mind, the easier it becomes to troubleshoot problems.
Yep. Yeah, I really like that because you're much gentler on yourself and you don't feel like a failure in that sense where you can make adjustments and tweak things as you go. And yeah, I really love that. So this is another question that's kind of related to this. So as we're looking at building these habits in and making these small adjustments, do you find that with your clients, it's easier to just focus on the small changes and make little habit changes as you go? Or to have like a big goal in mind and then work your way towards it? Or does it kind of depend on the person and the personality? What is your recommendation there? Should we always have a big goal that we're working towards or focus more on day to day?
Yeah, good question. So I think you hear a lot about big, audacious goals, but we also hear keep it simple, right? Smart goals. And so I think that we can do both. The difference is in what I call outcome goals versus behavior goals. So outcome goals, we really don't have a lot of control over. Outcome goals are things like, I want to earn $100,000 next year. I want to run a marathon. I want to lose 50 pounds. Okay. So those are examples of outcome goals. We don't just wake up one day and have accomplished it. Behavior goals actually lead us to the outcome goal. And so when we have the outcome goal of, for example, running a marathon, running a 5K, whatever it is, we do then have to break that down into behavior goals. Behavior goals we have control over. Outcome goals, we don't. So behavior goals are things like, I'm going to walk or run this week 5 times a week for 20 minutes a time. Okay. Those are things that we can control. Whereas there's a lot of moving parts that we might not even have control over that would prevent us from actually be able to accomplish the outcome goal, right? So like, for example, I might hurt myself. I might get injured. The weather might be terrible between now and when that 5K is. There are lots of reasons why the behavior goal, we can still do the behavior goal, but it might not lead us to the outcome goal. Does that answer the question?
Yep, it does. So it really just depends on what your personal goal is and then work towards it in smaller steps.
Yeah.
But do you think that you always need that big end goal? Or do you think that it is beneficial sometimes to not focus on an end goal? I guess maybe that's a quick question to.
Yeah. Well, and it's a really good question, because I think that for many women, we do health habits based on appearance. And so I think that we will often eat the vegetables, eat the non-processed foods, limit treats, go for the walk or the run or exercise or whatever, so that we can get a physical appearance goal. And what I do with my clients is I help them to see how these health habits actually make them feel better, instead of focusing on the outcome goal of losing the weight or whatever. And this is especially important when it comes to health, because if you don't enjoy the process, you aren't going to stick to it. And so if you are forcing yourself to be a runner or to cycle or go to the gym, but that thing just doesn't light you up, it is your responsibility to find something else to do that does light you up. And so when we can love the process, when you can eat vegetables for the joy of eating the vegetables, when you can eat minimally processed foods because they make you feel better instead of because you have to, then you are guaranteed success.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's one of the things that holds so many of us back, is looking at it from a have to standpoint rather than a I want to standpoint to get to it, to your goal. So that's really cool. I'm going to kind of jump around our questions here because it kind of plays into what we're just talking about. So would you be able to share a mindset shift when women are trying to make these changes that they can start today to start creating more space in their life? And we were talking more mentally and physically. And then if we can, after that, kind of go into the physical space piece of it.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting because it's something that I've only recently realized. So as I mentioned, the 8 basic habits, the last 2 habits are eat just enough, not too much. And the last one is limit treats. And I just realized within the past year that those aren't actually habits. I mean, yes, they are, but those 2 habits are actually the result of the other habits. And here's what I want to share with you. So just recently, I at the end of January, things were a little bit chaotic, and I was going on Facebook a lot and Instagram because I was like, what's happening in the world now? Right? I love routines. I love my morning routine. I think my morning routine, it over the years, it's really evolved and it's grown. And at the end of January, I kind of threw it all out the window. I, again, started just going on Facebook in the morning and scrolling. And I knew that it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, but I was still doing it. And then during the day, when I was working, I wasn't taking any breaks for myself. And again, I was using that time to scroll social. And then at night after dinner, when my husband and I would finish dinner, we would sit on the couch like we always do. And this time, instead of just watching TV, I started eating a little bit more. Nothing terrible. Like I have these, those Andes mints that you get at like
Yep.
restaurants or something. It's
Yep.
something like that. They're tiny little chocolates, and what started out as like 3 or 4 then grew to like 8 or 9. Again, I wasn't beating myself up because I was like, they're little chocolates. They're not that big of a deal, right? That's a problem statement right there. That's a little mindset shift that I can share with everyone. Whenever you hear it's not that big of a deal, that should signal a red flag. But anyway, a few weeks later, I live in Mexico. I don't have a scale because I refused to bring it with me when we moved. And so I don't weigh myself on a regular basis. And I use these 8 basic habits to manage my weight. And one thing that I do to make sure that I'm not lying to myself is I use my clothes to make sure that they fit consistently. And then occasionally I'll take pictures of myself in the mirror and then compare them. And so I took pictures of myself and I was like, oh, Elizabeth, you've been eating too many chocolates. Now, here's the thing. I did not beat myself up for it. I did not berate myself. The old version of me who was entrenched in diet culture would have been like, okay, that's it. No more chocolate, no more, treats at all. You have to work out harder. You have to work out longer, whatever. I was able to actually, first of all, be compassionate with my body and be compassionate in a way that was like, oh, body, I am really sorry that I have not been giving you the tools that you need in order to thrive. Like the weight for me was an indication that I wasn't treating myself well. And I was able to actually point back to my morning routine, that if I would give myself some space in the morning, my word for 2025 was connect. And what I wasn't doing was connecting with myself in the morning. I was disconnecting from myself. And what that did was it created a cascading events of me disconnecting from myself throughout the rest of the day. And so what I did from that point forward was I restarted my morning routine. I once again said, no more social. And I've been good since then. So the advice, the mindset shift that I have to answer the question is to create some space for yourself so that you can connect. Because what I realized is that the overeating is actually just a symptom. And many times we want to control the overeating with a diet, but that never works together. And so when you can create more space for yourself, then I think all of the other habits will take care of themselves.
And that's so interesting that you're saying that too, that when you have the issues with weight or the health issues, diet isn't going to help. I love being able to point it back to the morning routine, which has nothing to do with your food, but it's affecting you through your food. So that's so interesting. I think applies to so many of us too. I know myself, like my morning routine is, if I don't get my morning routine, my day does not go as well as it does when it might not go terrible. Most of the time, it just does not go the way that I want it to. And it all points back to the morning routine. If I can carve out that space for myself in the morning, it's getting that movement in, and it's being able to take the time to pray or do anything that I need to do in the morning to set myself up for success for the rest of the day. I love that you're able to recognize that and sharing with people that that is something to recognize. So that's really cool. And like getting away from that all or nothing thinking too, and that mentality of being able to make smaller changes. And when you're noticing that you're putting on a little bit of weight, to not have to just stop and go on that crash diet, but to be able to just adjust and be compassionate and make those changes and keep moving forward and just build on the progress that you've already made. So I think that's really cool. One of the things that you have mentioned in the past is the clutter and how it affects your health. And that is something that so many people that are listening to this podcast and women in our Facebook community are talking about the clutter. Like that is a big issue. So how does clutter affect our health in your opinion?
Yeah. So, I mean, it can affect it lots of different ways, and in different areas of your home. So one of the things that I find, and it goes back to that concept that I was talking about before, the thing before the thing. So for many of my clients, they'll be like, oh, I bought all of the ingredients for dinner, but then I didn't make it. And they just see the data of, I was supposed to make dinner and I didn't make dinner. And so therefore it's my fault. And when we really look at it, if you have a family who's cluttering up your kitchen and you get home at the end of the day and you need to clean your kitchen before you even make dinner, like that's a huge barrier and obstacle that is going to prevent you from wanting to make dinner. And so clutter can definitely get in the way, not only in that example, but also I'm sure that you talk about this, the mental and emotional energy that we give to stuff being around us all the time. I think it's really interesting, like, for example, our bedrooms. We don't want to have clutter in our bedrooms because even though we're spending the time in our bedrooms with our eyes closed, you know that it's there. All of those books that you're supposed to be reading that you just look at and it makes you feel bad, right? Because you're like, oh, I should be doing that. But instead, I'm playing Candy Crush. There are lots of different reasons. And I'm willing to open up a conversation about this with you, Renae, about what you think clutter and health, how they enmesh together.
Yeah, I think they have a huge connection piece because, like you said, when you go in and have the mess that is just affecting you mentally as you're going in and looking at it, you just start thinking about all the things that you haven't gotten to. And it's just this, like, it piles on your to-do list that seems to never end. And it definitely affects that decision making, because then you not only have to decide what to do first, but then you also have to decide, like, what priority is it going on my to-do list? And am I going to clean this room instead of go for that walk? Or am I going to, focus on straightening up my bedroom instead of going and making a healthy meal? So it definitely ties together with all of those pieces. And I think too, when we don't have homes for everything, that makes it even worse, because not only do we have so much stuff that isn't in its place, but then we have to think about creating a place for those things. Everything just piles on top of each other with how it affects us. And I think it plays a huge role in making us feel like we're drowning almost. And then we have a harder time focusing on our health when we feel like we're drowning in every other area of our life. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and as you were talking, I was thinking about how many of us, have weights and stuff like that at home so that we will work out at home. But if you decide to work out and then you have to go hunt down, oh yeah, where was the matching weight for that? And where was my jump rope? And where's my yoga mat? Like, if they're all in different places, then that's just going to take more time for you to do your workouts. And then it's like, well, I didn't have time for all of that. I should just pack it in and not do it at all.
Yep. Yeah. It's removing those obstacles that you're talking about, like making it easy for yourself to follow through on your own commitments.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, like, the all or nothing? So when we're looking at making these changes and we want to make the small habits, and somebody is in a pattern of doing all or nothing, where you either have a very strong goal and you're like committed, like, I'm just going to do all of these things, and then it kind of goes off the rails. How can they shift their mindset to be able to be more gentle? Like, do you have any tactical things that they can think about or do that helps them to understand how to get back on track without feeling like they completely derailed?
Yeah. I think about the version of myself who was starting out as, I was trying to get my shiz together. I was trying to start exercising and I was trying to eat well and I was trying to get all of that stuff together. And I remember thinking oh, if I could just have a perfect day of eating, then I'd be able to, build off of that. And here's the thing about perfect is that version of me would probably look at my diet today and think that I'm eating pretty perfectly. Like, how I eat today would have been a model of the 30-year-old version of me. I do not think that I eat perfectly. And so when we can aim for what I call B- habits. And I know all of you perfectionists out there right now are just cringing. You're like, no, I don't want a B-, I want an A+. Okay, here's the thing, is that your brain is going to move the goalposts. If you ever do have a perfect day of eating or week or whatever it is, let's say that you accomplish it. Your brain is going to be like, yeah, but. And so when we can strive for B-, what will happen is over the course of time, what we consider to be B- will actually get better and better and better and better. So today, even though my 30-year-old version of me thinks that how I eat today is an A+, I'm really eating at a B- level. It's just that over the course of the past 20 years, that B- has actually gotten better and better and better. And so I operate under a couple different concepts. One is B- all the way. One of my catchphrases is you can totally half-ass your health. And then also something is better than nothing. Did you eat the brownie? Yes. But you know what? It's a hell of a lot better than eating 2. Did you only run for 20 minutes, even though you were supposed to for an hour? Yes, but at least you got 20 in. Something is always better than nothing, and it all adds up. Because it's true. All of our health habits will add up to better health in the long run. It just keeps growing and thriving from there.
Yeah, I love that. And the B- habits, I think that's a good one because that makes me laugh, but I would strive for the A+. And I do have a tendency to like default into the all or nothing mindset. So I love that you're saying B+ because like that would totally make sense to make a little mistake and be like, okay, but I didn't do terrible and I'm okay. That's a B+, and or a B-. And
I was going to say, wait a minute. I didn't say B+.
Plus. I'm getting the plus. I have to pull the plus in. But yeah, I love that you're doing that because that does make it easier to not have the all or nothing mindset. So that's cool.
There's a really good book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And have you read it?
I have. Yes. It's so good.
Okay, perfect. So yes, we need to celebrate our wins because, and so have you talked about The Gap and the Gain on the podcast?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I have. And if I did, it was very early episodes. And
Okay,
I'm
so let me explain
it. So I don't know that I have mentioned it.
Okay, so let me explain it really briefly. What the book is about is that when we set goals, we always measure ourselves against the ideal, where we want to be. And so if I want to, let's say, weight loss is a really easy example. So let me use it only as an example. Let's say that I want to lose 15 pounds. So I start out on day 1 and I go along, and a week in, I've lost 3 pounds. And the way that our brains think is, okay, but I still have 12 pounds to lose. And so we're always thinking about the gap between where we are and where we want to be. And what that does is it actually robs us of a lot of joy. And so instead of measuring in the gap, the book authors suggest that we measure in the gain. And so see our progress. So I lost 3 pounds instead of thinking, but I have 12 more to lose. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's such a good book. And I don't know why I wouldn't have shared it already, but I don't think that I have. So thanks for
now you have a new podcast episode.
Right? Okay, so then I do have another question before we go into our final one, unless you have anything else to share. A lot of the people that are listening to this podcast, it's a lot of overwhelmed women. That's primarily who I'm speaking to, is overwhelmed women that are trying to like get their life organized. They're just feeling like everything is being thrown at them. They're scrambling and grasping at straws, trying to keep up. So when they're focusing on health and they are trying to make these changes, they might look at it and be like, okay, I know the steps, I just don't have the energy. Mm-hmm. What would you tell them of how to start small and do it even when the energy isn't there.
Yeah. Sometimes, and I hate to say this, but sometimes you have to start with the idea that the energy will come. Like, I remember when I started exercising, I really did not feel like it. But after a while, the exercise actually gave me the energy that I needed. And so that's my short answer for it.
Okay.
And the better that you eat, like, that energy will actually come back to you. But sometimes you have to do it with faith that you will get it back.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that, because I've gotten on a very consistent health journey
Mhm.
with movement and everything.
Mhm.
And the last week, we've been really busy, and I've been getting my morning walks in, but I haven't been going to the gym consistently. My husband and I normally go to the gym in the evenings after work, and we have not been going to the gym consistently. And we've been out of that habit for a couple of weeks, but I've continued to do the home workouts. So I'm still getting those workouts in. But the last week, I exercised once. And I was telling my sister actually this morning, and I was like, I'm so tired. And I know that I don't have the energy to do the workout, but I know that the workout is what I need to give me the energy. So I actually ended up getting up and doing a workout with my mom and my sister this morning. So
Yeah.
it was like, I just need to actually do the workout. And once I start it again, I know I'll have the energy to keep going. I just need to actually do it. And so
Yeah.
I like your answer. It's like, it does make sense. And once you're doing it consistently, your body does start to crave it because it needs it.
Yeah. Well, and here's a trick that I give myself for exercise. I mentioned earlier that I am probably one of the most consistent people that I know when it comes to exercise. And the reason for that is because every day in my morning routine, I have 2 cups of coffee, and then I have to peel myself up off the couch. I'm already dressed in my workout clothes, and I go to my workout space. I work out at home. The hardest part about exercise is actually showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a deal with myself. I've had this deal with myself for years, probably 10, 15 years, that I have to show up for the workout. I have to go to my space and I have to start. If after 10 minutes, I still don't want to do it, or I feel sick, or whatever it is, I give myself permission to stop after 10 minutes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And generally what happens is momentum just pulls you through.
Yeah.
And so that's the deal that I have myself. You have to go for 10 minutes. That's it.
How often do you find that you end up stopping?
It's rare.
Yep.
I can't remember the last time I did. Yeah.
I just, out of curiosity, do you do a lot of cardio? Do you do a lot of the strength training? What do your workouts typically look like?
Yeah, I do 20-minute workouts. I do a combination of weights and cardio. So I do a lot of circuits, and I do a lot of timer work. So I have a timer, it's on my phone, and I do intervals. So like 30 seconds and 30 seconds, or a minute and 45 seconds, or sometimes I'll do circuits of longer chains, for lack of a better word. And so here's why I do that. One is efficiency. So, I don't want to spend an hour working out. I'm sorry, I just don't. And so what I do is, the way that I lift weights is I give myself a cardio benefit at the same time as doing the strength training. And why that works is that when you work a muscle group, so let's say that you're doing squats or lunges or whatever it is, step ups, your heart is pushing blood into that muscle group so that it feeds that muscle group with energy, right? Oxygen. So when you stop doing that muscle group, so let's say that I stop doing squats and then I move directly into chest presses, for example. Now my heart has to start moving blood into my chest and arms. And so now my heart has to work harder to fill 2 muscle groups with blood. And then let's say that I do abs or something, then I'm doing a third. So by doing circuits of multiple muscle groups without resting, I'm actually getting a cardio benefit at the same time as doing my strength training. And so it kills 2 objectives with the same amount of time. And I love it. And I will never go back to a traditional gym workout again.
That's really cool. Do you have the workouts that you do? Do you provide those in your program?
I do. In fact, I have another opt-in freebie for your listeners if they want it. You can go to elizabethsherman.com/20-minute-workouts. And it is such an old opt-in that I had a long time ago. And I still use those workouts today. They're some of my favorites. They're hard. So for those of you who are listening, if you go for it, I'm going to give you permission to only do 10 minutes. Like, do something. Like, if getting through the whole 20 minutes is too difficult, it's okay. No one's going to know. I'm not going to know.
Yeah.
Do 10 minutes. And then the next week, do a little bit longer. Like, it's okay. You can't do it wrong.
Set the timer and give yourself enough time for the timer to go off, and then don't even have to focus on it. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Good.
One reason that I really love doing the timer with my phone is that then I don't have to count repetitions.
Yep.
I just lift until the timer goes off. And then I don't have to think as much.
Another way to reduce the decision fatigue too.
Exactly.
And you don't have to be thinking about it. Yeah. Okay, so I would love to ask you a question, because this is a podcast about building these routines. And I would love to have you share, in any area of life, what is a habit or routine that you do that you love? And why does it work for you, or why do you love it?
Yeah. So I would going back to our earlier conversation, I would have to say it's my morning and evening routines. And I think that you can't separate one without the other, because my evening routine actually sets me up for success in the morning. And then my morning routine sets me up for success during the day and in the evening. And so I have an iPad with an iPencil, and I do journaling every morning and every night. And I use some of the questions from The Gap and the Gain in it. So like, I think about my wins for the day. And then at the end of the day, one of the questions that I love is, what are 3 experiences that I had during the day that I want more of during my life? It's a way of doing a gratitude practice without it being an obvious gratitude practice. Because when I first started learning about gratitude practices, they didn't really resonate with me, because I was like, I feel like I'm asking for things. Like, I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for my car, I'm grateful for my partner, and it didn't really resonate. And so by reflecting back on experiences that I've had throughout the day that I want more of in my life, it creates more gratitude for those. And by the law of attraction, it will bring more of it into my life as well. So.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I totally agree that the nighttime routine and the morning routine blend so well. I mean, they support each other for sure, especially if you have an established morning routine and nighttime routine that flexes with your life. Like, that is so important. So I love that. So thank you again for being here. This has been super helpful. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel like you want to share for our listeners?
Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot. We covered a lot more than I thought that we were going to.
Sorry.
So no. I'm glad to do it. I just hope that I'm, providing value and people are finding it helpful. So I think, if you just want to learn more, go over to my podcast, which is the Total Health and Midlife Podcast. And I have over 250 episodes at this point. Yeah, I can talk. I warned you, Renae, I can talk.
I'm happy with it, and I'm sure our listeners will appreciate the extra talking. So this is good. And I will make sure that your links for both of those freebies and your podcast are in the show notes as well. So anybody listening can go directly to the show notes and get all of Elizabeth's links.
Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.